In the last video, we learned how to use the while loop and the do while to repeat a series of statements several times. Today, we're going to learn another loop that's called the for loop. And basically, it has the same three tests that we asked before. We said whenever we're writing a loop, we need to ask ourselves, where are we starting? That's our initialization. When are we stopping? And that's the test that we write. And then how are we updating our variables? And so the for loop has the same three parts, except it has them all next to each other. So when we did a while loop, for example, to print, numbers from 1 to 10, what we did was we said, okay, the first number I want to print is 10, so I'm going to do it here. Let's just call it num, actually. Sorry, the first number I want to print is 1. So I'm going to set it here. So this was my initialization. This is my starting point, which we call initialization. And then I would have a while loop, and I would say while the number is less than or equal to 10. So that was my test. That made me stop. And then inside I would do what I need to do, which was system.out.println, for example, num. And then I asked myself, after I print 1, what is the next number I wanted to print? And it was 2. And to get to 2, I would do num plus plus. And so that was my update. So those were the three parts that we talked about when we talked about the while loop and the do while. The for loop is exactly the same. It has those three parts, except instead of having 1 before the while, 1 next to the word while, and 1 inside the while, it has them all next to each other. So I would have 4, and then I would create my variable. I can create it here. Instead of num, I'm going to use I for int I equal 1. While I is less than or equal to 10, my update is going to be I plus. And what is the only thing that I need to do in here? The only thing I need to do is print the number, which is I. And so these two loops would perform the same thing. So this is also printing the numbers from 1 to 10. So if I run this code, I should see the numbers from 1 to 10 printed twice. 1 because of the while loop and 1 because of the for loop. So we have the 1 to 10, and then we have the other 1 to 10. Okay, so basically it's the same as the while loop, except your three parts, your starting, initialization, your test, and your update are all on one line. Now, what if I wanted to print the numbers from 2 to 10, but even? Okay, well, what's my first number? My first number that I want to print is 2. When do I want to stop? I want to stop when I get to 10. So as long as I is less than or equal to 10, I'm going to continue. I want to go in increments of 2 because I only want to do the evens. So I plus equal 2. Okay, and then inside I would have my system.out.println I. Okay, so this is printing. Let's look at another example. Let's look at a counting example. When we wanted to count, for example, print high 10 times, what we did was we said, okay, let's create a counter variable that starts with 1, and while count was less than or equal to 10, what I want to do is print high, and then I want to update my count so that I indicate that I did it 1 time, right? That was how we did it with a while loop. Now, how would I do it with a for loop? The same thing. I would say for int I, and for loops you'll find that they almost always use the variable I. So here for int I equal to 1, that's my counting, my first variable. I'm going to continue until I get to 10, and then I plus plus. And what is it that I would do? The only thing I want to do is print high. Notice that because it is only one statement that I have here, I don't have to put the curly braces. If I wanted to do more than one thing, I would put the curly braces. If I wanted to print high there, for example, print high, space after it, and then let's print there, for example. So if I wanted to do more than one statement, I would have to put the curly braces, just like I had to do with the while loop. Okay, so this is if I'm doing counting. What if I want to do like an accumulator? Like I want to add all the values from 1 to 10. Okay, well, the first thing is with a while loop, we used to say, okay, int, let's just use num again. So num equal to 1, and then while the number was less than or equal to 10, what I did was I would have to add it. So I needed another variable, sum. So int sum equal to 0, and then I would go and I would say sum plus equal to num. So I'm adding whatever number I'm, the 1 and then the 2 and then the 3, I'm adding it to the sum. And then now I need to do my update. So my update was num plus plus. That was my update. How would I do that with a for loop? Well, the same way. I would ask myself, what is the first number I want to add? It's 1. What is the last number I want to add? It's 10. So as long as I is less than or equal to 10, I'm going in increments of what? 1. So I plus plus. Okay, what is it that you want to do? You want to update sum. Let's make it total here. So that means you needed a variable called total that you start off with 0. And so inside, do is say total plus equal to num, to I, and that was it. So I have my initialization, my test, and my update all on one line, and I have the variable that I'm updating or whatever I'm printing, basically the statements that I want to do for every single variable I, every value from I equal 1 to I equal 10. Now the for loop is a pretest loop. So the first thing it will do after the initialization, so the first thing it's going to do is the initialization, the int I equal 1, the int count equals 0, whatever you have in the initialization, that's the first thing that it's going to do. After that, immediately it will go and do the test. It will do the test, and if the test fails, it will be like the while loop where it will never run. So if here, for example, I started with 11, this would be a loop that will never run because immediately it will ask, is 11 less than or equal to 10? And the answer will be no. So it will not do anything. Okay, so it's a pretest loop just like the for loop. And we saw an example right now with the counting. If I wanted to count something, okay, that was very similar to the while loop. The int count equal 1, count less than or equal to 5, count plus plus. Instead of being in 3 different places with the while loop, they're all on one. And then we saw an example for printing a range of numbers, and we saw adding a range of values.